Well, I showed a signal for a minute, but I lost it. Well, I want to go to my current left. Oh, wait, this is wrong. No? I don't know. I guess it just don't matter because I'm going somewhere. But if you want to know where you are, don't use T-Mobile. see, it's not a T stop. I can just go south, so or or whatever direction. It's not clear because I don't have a signal, but that should be east. I mean, there's the sun, right?
We want to share photos and videos that make us laugh, sometimes cry. And when they pop up in the frame, kids absolutely love seeing themselves come up. It's good for their like self-esteem. They see themselves, and who really loves it is grandparents because it makes them feel connected and not. Danish Prime Minister has arrived in the autonomous territory Greenland to apologise in person to the victims of a forced contraception program that Denmark ran for more than 3 decades. Miller Fredriksson said that the apology constituted an important marking of a dark chapter. Benedict Kian reports. From the late 1960s until 1992, Danish authorities forced around 4,500 Inuit women, around half of all those of childbearing age, to have an intrauterine device, commonly known as a coil, fitted. The aim was to reduce the Inuit birth rate. Many of the women were left sterile, and almost all of them have suffered from physical or psychological problems. Ms Fredrickson this week announced a scheme to compensate victims as well as other Greenlanders who suffered discrimination because of their Inuit heritage. The incumbent president of Malawi, Lazarus Chakwera, has accepted defeat in the country's presidential election. 85-year-old Peter Mutharika won after a campaign focusing on his record of investing in infrastructure during his last term in office, which was however dogged by corruption scandals. Malawi is heavily dependent on agriculture, which is struggling because of climate change. Inflation is running at about 27%. A man's been arrested in Britain over an alleged cyber attack which caused disruption at a number of European airports, including London, Heathrow, Berlin and Brussels. The UK National Crime Agency said the suspect was held in West Sussex in southern England and subsequently released on conditional bail. BBC News.
Hello and welcome to News Hour from the BBC World Service. We're coming to you live from London. I'm James Menendez. And we're going to begin today in the South China Sea in what is the most powerful tropical cyclone of the year so far, Typhoon Ragasa, which has been roaring westwards over the last few days with winds of up to 240 kilometres per hour. That's 150 miles an hour, the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. Storm surge smashing through the doors of a hotel on the southern coast of Hong Kong's main island, sweeping one man off his feet and causing panic in the lobby. Earlier, the typhoon brushed past Taiwan, where the impact was much more serious. A lake up in the hills burst its banks, sending a huge volume of water barreling down into the town of Guangfu in Hualien County in the east of the island. This woman in the town said she and her family spent the night stuck on the second floor before a rescue team arrived in the early morning.
We jumped into a pickup truck with officers from the local authority and just began fleeing for our lives. Honestly, if we hadn't left early, the water was really intense during that short drive. I thought we were going to tip over. The pickup truck was packed with people. The officers were shouting along the way, telling the remaining residents that the water was coming and to just drop everything and quickly go to higher grounds. Honestly, I can't believe that the kind of scenes that we saw on TV during a tsunami in Japan, that those scenes were actually happening right in front of us.
We'll be hearing from Taiwan in a few minutes. Johnny Chang is a science consultant at the Asia Pacific Typhoon Collaborative Research Center in Shanghai. Speaking from Hong Kong, he said the typhoons were getting stronger and that governments needed to prepare.
What we've been seeing is that typhoons that develop over the Pacific Ocean, when they are close to the coast, they have a tendency to become even more intense. And we're still looking for the reason for that. So in recent years, both along the eastern shore of China and also the South China coast, we have seen the maximum intensity, which means the strongest winds, while these typhoons have become even stronger. So we have to be out on alert on what disasters these typhoons will bring. So all along the China coast now, everybody is aware this is happening. We have educated the provincial governments and local governments that the intensity of the typhoons is likely going to increase in the future. So when they do the city planning, they need to think about what to do in terms of the wind loading on buildings, the drainage systems, having the capacity to drain more water, and then along the coast as what kind of levees or preventive measures they need to do to stop the storm surge from coming in and flooding the city.
Well, China correspondent Laura Becker is in the city of Zhuhai on China's southern coast, close to where the storm recently made landfall. I asked her how bad it's been.
The winds have been utterly ferocious. It was very difficult to stand up 12 hours ago, and I think when you look at where we are now, the storm is beginning to weaken. It is beginning to still travel across southern China, where it has abated slightly. When it did hit, when the eye of the storm did hit and make landfall, meteorologists have recorded the highest ever wind speed to hit this province at over 150 miles an hour, and those winds were sustained. When it comes to the effects on people here in China, yes, it has had an effect on livelihood. People have had to stay indoors for 2 days. This is a huge industrial hub here Guangdong. However, it does seem so far, especially here in Zhuhai, the authorities prepared this by making sure that people were taken from low-lying areas, but making sure that people were not in high buildings, and making sure that people stayed indoors. I mean, even the police were patrolling all the way through the day with megaphones telling people to stay indoors. It does seem that those efforts have paid off. As right now, things are beginning to get back to normal, and we have no news of major casualties in China. And in Hong Kong, nearly 100 people were hit and injured by falling debris.
Those people are living in high buildings, and there are lots of high apartment buildings out there in China. I mean, what happened to them? And there are evacuation centres in the city then?
Around 2 million people right across Guangdong province were evacuated from both low-lying areas and high buildings. And here in Zhuhai, if you live above the 10th floor, you were actually taken to another place, another apartment, another hotel, or there were many evacuation centres. Schools, for instance, community centres were used right across the city. And, you know, I was here yesterday as people were preparing for this typhoon. Neighbourhood watch officers actually go from door to door to tell people that they need to move away, that they need to close their shops and businesses. We watched people get sandbags delivered. Everyone has taped up their windows. So they do follow instructions. There was only a disgruntled few who didn't really want to close their restaurant too early. But many people are used to these typhoons here. They are used to these instructions, and when it comes to it, they believe that it keeps them safe. However, even out in the streets today, as they were kind of cleaning away the debris, I was asking about how strong this storm compared, and you can see that they're growing concerned about the number of storms hitting this province. This is the third in a month. By far, it is the strongest, and that's what they told us. And I think when you listen to weather experts both here in China and around the world, one of the concerns here is that these typhoons that are coming off the West Pacific are growing stronger.
And is that challenge from extreme weather something that the government in China is taking seriously?
Well, the Communist Party see this kind of preparedness as tied up with its almost social contract with the people. I think they take it very seriously, not only because President Xi has ordered on several occasions to minimise the loss of a life in these kinds of natural disasters, but also they realise that faith in the party can be eroded if they do not prepare well in advance. They fear the criticism that could come in the wake of any natural disaster, which has happened in the past. But this year alone, this country has had heat waves, droughts, storms, floods, and now this super typhoon. It is getting more used to these climate-related events.
BBC's Laura Becker in Zhuhai, the city of Zhuhai on China's southern coast. Well, let's find out a bit more about what happened in Taiwan and the devastation the storm caused in one part of the island. Chris Lee is a journalist with the independent news media organisation Dominance there.
So, Typhoon Rakasa, this is the 14th typhoon this year, and what it brought is what locals describe as a mountain of tsunami. It's like just all water, mud, and debris crashing into this township of Hualien County, which is located on the east coast of Taiwan. But this township is more in the mountain valley, and the streets used to be hustle and bustle with tourists. Like last week, the streets are now choked with wrecked cars, trees that are uprooted by the flood, and collapsed sections of the Matayan Bridge, which connects the local traffic, and homes up to the second floor are submerged. And then we also saw railroad tracks are twisted like scrap metal.
Right, so extensive damage and many people have died, and I think there are still people missing, is that correct?
Correct. So based on the latest information from government agencies that were released about an hour ago, we are seeing 17 dead so far and 17 missing. There's about 32 people that are injured.
Do we know why this dam that released all this water onto this town, do we know why it failed?
Let me just take us back a little bit back in July. So debris from a landslide in July had formed a natural dam, and local authorities have been warning for weeks that remote lake could overflow by around October-ish. And then at a news conference today, we saw officials said assessments showed it wasn't feasible to remove the dam barrier, so they opted to monitor the situation instead. Before the typhoon hit, authorities said they had issued multiple warnings and also evacuation advisories to residents who could be impacted if the lake overflowed.
So what happened then? Did not enough people leave the town once they've had these evacuation orders?
As that local government, they received many notifications and warnings about the fact that they need to evacuate these local residents, but they failed to do so.
Well, so they just didn't pass on the evacuation orders?
Correct.
I mean, is that unusual in Taiwan? I mean, Taiwan gets a lot of extreme weather, doesn't it? I mean, are these things usually quite well handled?
Right. And so this created a lot of criticism and concerns from society. And we saw online there were people criticizing the local governments and also people supporting the local governments, pointing fingers at the central government. But somehow this mix of frustration over delayed mandatory evacuations, and not just that, but residents and local councillors have noted that voluntary measures, many are vulnerable. And then we also saw broader discourse ties the disaster to climate change, with climate experts from Taiwan and locals decrying the warmer seas, intensifying storms, as well as past corruption in flood control.
And just finally, I mean, the rescue operations in that town, I mean, what's happening at the moment? Presumably they're still ongoing to help those people whose houses are submerged.
Right. So there are helps from the government side and also from the private side. From the government side, we saw military and rescue deployment, and right now there are a lot of firefighters over there providing help and conducting search and rescue missions, as well as the military folks.
That was journalist Chris Lee speaking to me from Taiwan. There is a live page on the progress of the typhoon on our website, bbc.com/. A brief word now about the American talk show host Jimmy Kimmel, who is back on the air a week after being suspended because of comments he made about the killing of the conservative activist Charlie Kirk. President Trump criticised his return and suggested he might take action against his network, ABC. In his opening monologue, Kimmel said he understood that his remarks last week had felt ill-timed.
I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human. And that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. For those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way.
He thanked conservatives who supported his right to free speech and went on to, once again, criticise Mr. Trump.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihood.